As of late, I've found myself really kicking it around with the light assault class in Planetside 2, and without fail, I find myself defaulting back to the default carbine for the class, the AF-19 Mercenary, and then I remembered we haven't done a review for a default weapon in a long time, so why not start again now? G'day there once again viewers, this is your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today guys, we're going to be reviewing the default carbine available for the NC, the AF-19 Mercenary. So, for those of you who aren't a regular here on the channel, firstly, welcome, hope you're doing bloody brilliantly, but secondly, here's how we like to run things in regards to weapon reviews. I've got a format and I like to make sure you guys know what to expect out of a video like this. Firstly, we are going to be going through a quick TLDR of the entire review, because despite my best interests in satisfying Puppy YouTube algorithm by making you guys watch a longer video, I know you don't all have the time to sit through a 10-minute plus long video about a weapon in a video game, so we'll do a quick and dirty rundown of the weapon to kick things off. But I also know that there are some stats lovers out there, and fear not, I have you covered, guys. We'll follow up with some discussion regarding weapon stats and some insights on how the weapon should be used on those stats, and well, wrapping things up nicely, we'll get into the attachment options and how you can utilize them to the best of your ability. Even though there aren't many attachment options available here, it's still worth going over. But that's the plan. Now, time to execute. Let's go over the TLDR of the Mercenary. So, yeah, the Mercenary. Not gonna lie guys, it's just good. It's a weapon that holds a reputation amongst the Vanu and the TR who end up being on the wrong end of the barrel of this thing. Hell, even NC who get caught on the wrong end of the barrel of this thing often end up building a sort of a reputation with it, and it's for good reason. It's a carbine that shares a damage model with the revered LA1 Anchor, like for like, all the while sporting a more predictable recoil pattern and a nicer hip fire to boot. It's no joke. Hell, throw in a really spicy reload time in there for good measure. And in the hands of someone who can control a slightly harder hitting vertical recoil by comparison to the last two carbines we reviewed, which happen to be the defaults for the other two factions, then this will be a weapon that you'll find yourself coming back to frequently, even after dabbling in some of the shiny new options available in the NC's carbine arsenal. The Mercenary is just that one lifelong friend that you can go for months or even years without talking to, but still shoot the shit like it was just yesterday since you last talked at a moment's notice. The weapon's excellent bursting accuracy makes up for a limited damage output at range if you can score those hits. The damage in CQC is some of the best in the game, and the smooth reload is one that you could just simply rely on even in the most intense situations out there. Just kind of be prepared to find ammo frequently on longer kill streaks, because ammo is something that this weapon goes through like nobody's business. Okay, being honest, it might not be as bad as the GD7F, but it ain't a conservationist. Like, let's just put it that way. But anyway, this is a default carbine that has a hell of a reputation, and even for newer players is a weapon that's pretty easy to learn and treats you the right techniques for the game in the long run to become more skilled. But let's dive into the statistics to work out why that's the case. Kicking things off in a true NC fashion, we have a sturdy damage model sitting at 167 maximum damage within the 10 meter mark, extending out to a 125 minimum damage at the 70 meter mark. So sadly, yeah, we drop a total of 2 damage tiers in the process, and longer range targets are going to be feeling a little bit less threatened by you as the rangefinder reading climbs. But despite this, the minimum damage here on the Mercenary doesn't hit until the 70 meter mark, which is admittingly a really long engagement distance for a carbine. At that point, you'd be picking fights that are probably not in your best interest in the first place, especially if you're playing a light assault and you're doing some cheeky flanking. But thanks to the long damage drop-off distance here, the weapon remains surprisingly potent out to a fairly long distance. Now, of course, we have the juicy 6-shot kill within 10 meters. That is a staple of the 167 damage model and is a reason why NC weapons are loved so vigorously. But, as we said before, the weapon is still pretty potent out to a 44-meter distance, with the potential to score a 7-shot kill at that distance. After that, you're looking at an 8-shot kill up until you hit the minimum damage range, which is, yeah, not even worth it in the first place. So, yeah, up until 44 meters, you're still a pretty potent combatant, so something to keep in mind here as we discuss the weapon later on. Putting the rate of fire of 600 rounds per minute, or 10 rounds per second into the equation, we find ourselves with a theoretical time to kill of 0.5 seconds at the 10 meter mark, 0.6 seconds at the 44 meter mark, and 0.7 seconds at the 70 meter mark, keeping in mind that these numbers are of course theoretical. They assume that all body shots are hit and no muzzle velocity is taken into consideration for bullet travel time. But as much as NC Command would like to have you believe otherwise, damage isn't everything. Yeah, I know, insert confused NC screaming here, but let's get into the handling behind the weapon, and recoil-wise, you're certainly in for a treat here. The Mercenary does admittingly sport a heavier than average vertical kick, especially when compared to the likes of the Track 5 and the Solstice VE3, which we've also reviewed recently on the channel, links to that in the top right of your screen now. But the saving grace here is the consistency of the recoil. It's bloody straight. The Mercenary just simply doesn't mess around, guys, and as a result, it's easy to learn and get to a point that it's reliable while bursting or even holding down the trigger. The numbers behind this schmexy recoil start off with a 0.4 degree vertical kick per shot, which may sound like a lot for a carbine, but thanks to the slower rate of fire, it's not that big a deal, especially as it makes itself out to be. That, with the 1.75 times first shot multiplier, means that you're going to have to deal with a 0.7 degree vertical kick, which isn't, again, anything too out there. It's actually not great, but not too uncontrollable. The horizontal recoil, though, just mwah, that is where this thing shines. It only sits at 0.175 degrees per shot, so that's pretty light out of the gate. But then you've got the horizontal recoil tolerance. That means that the weapon can only kick twice in a single direction before being forced back in the opposite direction, which keeps it incredibly centered at all times, all things considered. Throw in the fact that there is absolutely no angle adjustment present here at all, and you're going to have yourself a package that is just a simple, straight shooter, and all you really need to do to compensate for it is pull down on the mouse. It's as simple as that. The cone of fire values here make things a little bit more interesting too. In the world of default carbines across all three factions, the Mercenary sports a superior starting accuracy while standing still in both crouch and standing stances, but does also fall short by comparison in the world of continuous firing with a slightly higher bloom per shot. So by comparison to the other factions that starter carbine counterparts, get ready to burst fire a little bit more to keep those rounds centered on target despite the recoil. Hip fire is pretty much bang on average for carbines though. Anyway, reloading wise, we have ourselves a satisfying snappy 1.8 second short reload and a sort of unforgiving long reload of 2.75 seconds with a 30 round magazine and a complimentary 180 round total ammo pool by default. Wrapping things up, we have a stock standard 0.5 times aiming down sights movement multiplier with a pretty average 500 meters per second muzzle velocity, which is really nothing too spectacular here. But that is the Mercenary, and man, it's been a damn pleasure returning to this weapon once again. It's a weapon that commonly gets overshadowed by the likes of the ACX-11 or the GT7F due to their more specialized approaches to combat, but the Mercenary well and truly finds itself in any situation you throw at it, and it fits quite well. There are only a few examples where I've found an issue with the weapon, and that's only really in situations that were of more extreme varieties, but the sheer flexibility of the Mercenary just makes it a standout for many situations, and it doesn't necessarily skimp out on damage for that fact while doing that. Like, at the end of the day, this is a weapon that shares that infamous damage model from the LA1 Anchor. Like, it is seriously a weapon with the right amount of punch to get stuff done, and it just comes in a really controllable package. And a part of that controllable package that I actually really want to highlight here is the bursting accuracy. You see, with carbines, you often find yourself in pretty aggressive situations making use of their better than average hip fires, especially when playing as the light assault class. And that often just means holding down the trigger and letting Auraxis Jesus take the wheel. Let's be honest, Earth Jesus don't want to deal with none of our shit. And while the Mercenary does sport some excellent longer burst accuracy with its competitive recoil pattern, it does mean that by properly burst firing the weapon, you can really extend out the effective range here a little further than you can initially expect. Allow me to explain. Thanks to its relatively forgiving first shot multiplier, its really excellent starting cone of fire when standing still, and the fact that not even an earthquake could knock this thing off center from a recoil perspective, it makes it really possible to just simply tap the trigger to a rhythm and land some really consistent shots even at range. Playing a more conservative light assault that's sitting atop the peaks of an enemy tower, for example, the Mercenary is a great tool for landing accurate 2-3 round bursts, hell even 1 round taps on a target's dome for some surprisingly quick kills. Yes, the damage over range here isn't what you would call special. In fact, it's inferior in some areas. But once again, I have to remind people we are sharing the damage model of the revered LA1 Anchor, so it's not at all a weapon that's lacking any kind of potency. It just means that with some trigger discipline, you will be able to find yourself being able to circumvent that damage drop-off. Again, the weapon is surprisingly potent out to 44 meters, and should you find yourself really needing to engage further, you can still pull it off. It just requires some excellent trigger discipline and accuracy to do it. Just aim, forehead, basically. But in all seriousness, bursting your weapons in Planetside 2 is a key component of becoming a more skilled player, and the Mercenary is going to be with you along the way, rewarding you as you improve this skill, which makes it an excellent default weapon to kick things off with. It rewards you for working on the skills that you need to work on to become a better player. So yeah, the weapon is incredibly potent when used accurately, but we are still limited by a 30-round magazine here. Thankfully, we also have a reload time sitting at 1.8 seconds, should you be able to avoid that long reload. And that brings us to our next point: avoid the long reload. Now, I know I've said this plenty. In fact, I'm pretty sure we've said it in practically every single weapon review I've made lately. For one, it's just a good thing to do. It's basic first-person shooter mechanics 101, but with the Mercenary in particular, it's going to ensure that you can remain as effective as possible. The damage, when placed correctly, is going to result in some pretty quick kills, which is going to attract some serious attention your way, and you're going to want to be as prepared as you possibly can be to deal with the cheeky bastards who haven't caught on the whole social distancing memo yet. So whenever you think you have a moment of tranquility to yourself, take some time, give the Mercenary a reassuring feel, say some sweet nothings to it, and take your newly loaded 30 bonus checks into battle for distribution to enemies' faces. Now, another thing that I've always found myself doing with the Mercenary is running out of the stuff that makes it deadly. Ammo. I'm talking about ammo. I don't know if there are any other lovers of the Mercenary out there who can confirm this, but I seriously find myself running out of ammo with this thing a lot if I'm ever on a good run, and it feels as though it's running out faster than other carbines that I may be using in the same situation. I think it comes from the fact that I am just more confident to enter more engagements at different distances than I would have been with other guns, so I end up using more ammo faster naturally. So I actually do recommend taking the ammo printer implant with you on a loadout that's going to be heavily separated from allies. Or, you know, you could just find an engineer, but hey, in the NC, getting within shotgun range of a friendly is considered a hazard in and of itself, so proceed at your own risk. But overall, guys, the Mercenary is just a well-built, accurate, great all-rounder carbine that, despite its default status within the armory, has been a long-standing favorite of my mind that I simply can't find a reason to ditch entirely. It's a weapon that teaches you a lot of the things to do right in Planetside 2, and when a default weapon does that, I think it's a really, really good option to take with you as you progress further into your career as a planet man. Which is a great opportunity to move on to the attachment options available to the Mercenary to work out what is the best way to kit this thing out. The attachment options available here include a 1 to 4x optics, including both 2x and RNV options, a flash suppressor, standard suppressor, forward grip, dark light flashlight, and a laser sight. That's it. Yeah. Let's just say the Mercenary isn't blessed by a whole lot of options to kit it out, which is a shame. The no ammo attachments in particular is a little unfortunate for a weapon of this type. But in saying that, what do I recommend doing? Well, out of the gate, for free with this weapon you unlock a 1x optic as well as the laser sight. And quite frankly, that's all you really need to use this weapon effectively. Now, once upon a time, I ran a forward grip pretty much consistently with this thing, but when the light assault got the buff that, you know, it had the better hip fire when it was airborne, it just made more sense to run the laser sight more often. And quite frankly, this weapon's horizontal recoil doesn't need a forward grip. It really, really doesn't. You can get by without having it easily. The only other attachment option I would recommend equipping here is a standard suppressor. Now, that's only if you're going to be doing some close quarters sneaky action with the weapon, because the suppressor does cut its muzzle velocity down by a considerable margin, and the muzzle velocity out of the gate here ain't that great, so you're going to be really limited in the longer range department with that suppressor on board. The flash suppressor I find obscures your gun vision way too much by creating too many particle effects and smoky effects, so yeah, I wouldn't recommend taking that. But I'm also running an ultra graphics, that could be a factor here as well. But that's sort of it, guys. There's nothing really else to go over about the AF-19 Mercenary in this video, so that brings us to a close. I hope you guys enjoyed the first weapon review we've done here in a bloody long time. It's good returning back to what I consider sort of my roots here on the channel. Like, weapon reviews were one of the first styles of videos I really got into in Planetside too, and it's one of the things I think sort of, you know, allowed me to grow as a channel. So yeah, guys, good to be getting back to our roots. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. YouTube has been really stuffing with my analytics lately, so all the likes really do go a long way. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, if you got any tips for how to use the Mercenary, leave a comment down below as well. It goes a long way to also supporting the channel. You can also find my Twitch, Discord, all the bells and whistles linked down below, guys. And yeah, hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys. Have a good one. Look forward to talking to you again soon.